It's a day 5, part 5, a big lift day, or I should say drop down day. Got the rest of the parts for the crane lift, assembled that yesterday. Haven't had much chance to play around with it, just tightened it up this morning. And I'm not sure what setup I'm going with, it's a case of trial and error. But let's get this thing in place. Let's see if we can get this transfer box and gearbox out. I think it'll put up a fight. At the back of my mind I think it's going to fight me all the way, but the weather's turning, so if I can get it out today, at least I can do the work on it that I need to in the garage where it's a bit warmer, not as wild. So that's a crane, rated 1 ton, this thing 130 odd kilograms, so it should be well in spec for that, especially with the reach that's on this. So I'm going to set the crane up. This is the strapping I've got. I've just got one wedged on the actual gearbox, one around the transfer box, and between those two somehow I'm going to lift it, slide it back and do everything I need. Hopefully too long, these are 3 meters, I wish I'd got the 2 meter ones now. I've had to go around a couple of times, and the more times you go around the less control you have of it. So hopefully everything is there. I need to do one bolt. Well, the plan of action is I'm going to lift it at the transfer box end. I'm going to drop off the 2 brackets that are holding this thing up. I'm not sure how yet, but I want to get the whole brackets off. Then I want to let the gearbox and transfer box back down so I can then access. There's a real couple of tricky bolts in there I need to get to, and you can drop it so far down and you can get access with your socket down there. So 2 bolts to get in there once I've lowered it, and then I want to get it back level again and drag it back. That's the plan. So let's get the crane in there and get going. Right, here we go. That was tough. Whew. That is just a fight all the way to get it out. But it's down. It's on the deck. I need to get the crane out the way so I can see what's going on. How I'm going to get this back in, I have no idea. That was tough. I can't even say how I did it. It was just lots of shoving, grunting, pulling, lots of rejigging of the different lifting equipment I was using, and in the end it came out. But whoa, that was a fight, and I'm not going to do anything now. I think I'll just leave it there for today. I'm absolutely shot. Whew, it's out, so that's a good thing. I'll have a damage assessment tomorrow, I think, to see how it looks. Oil was dripping all over the place from it. But yeah, it's down. Let's have a look at him under there. It surrendered. I wasn't sure who was going to give up first, me or it. But it's down. Get the crane out the way and get it in a better position. It's not laying at the best angle at the moment. I need to clear everything out of the way. But you can see how many jacks I've used. A bottle jack to line it up at the front. Got another jack down there I've been using. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Anyway, it's done. I'll worry about putting it back in later on. And let's get on with refurbishing quite a few bits. The more I'm taking this off, the more bits I'm seeing that are wrong. So we'll see. Alright, there we go. I'm going to have to split it here because it weighs an absolute ton, so I'm going to split the transfer box and the gearbox here and then move them one at a time. I've got better access now, and then I'll get them in the garage and see what the damage is. There's oil and drips everywhere, so I'm going to have a look tomorrow, and that's taking a lot longer than I thought it would, so I'll have a damage assessment tomorrow and see where I'm at and take it from there. The one transfer box removed and split from the gearbox. This thing weighs a ton. Really, you should have 2 of you doing that. Even splitting it from the gearbox was a nightmare. Had to really give it a bit of brute force, but it's really cumbersome to manipulate. Awkward shape, you can't get it flat, and it was just hard work, that, I've got to say. But generally it all looks in pretty good condition. Seal is actually pretty good on that. I don't know, I wasn't gonna strip this one down. There's not much backlash in it when I test that out, so I might just give this a general clean up. I'm gonna have a look inside. There's like an inspection chamber you can have a look at, and I need to make the diff lock switch work, so I need to reset that. I'm just gonna give it a bit of a general maintenance, I think. I haven't decided yet. Depends how the gearbox goes. This is the bell housing held on with 6 bolts, and then there's the fork, clutch fork and a bearing. Strip that out, that's easy to do, and there's quite big bolts there at the bottom. Again, easy to do, and that broke apart pretty easy, but you can see it is covered in oil. And this was what was dripping down a little bit all the time, every single time, even when it was just standing on the drive and not used. There was that little drip, drip, drip of oil, and as you can see, something's been leaking pretty badly. So need to sort that out, clean that out, and I think that's a rear. I'm hoping it's just the crankshaft seal, which is a fairly easy job, but one I hadn't intended to do. It's just more time consuming. The weather's really ramping up here at the moment, so that's not a good thing. Clutch looks in good nick. I need to take that off as well and have a look. I have to do that anyway for the seal, but I want to have a look at that. It looks good, looks good condition. And you can hear the wind. It is hammering down today, and it's gonna snow I think tomorrow, so I've got all of this away, so at least I can work on this in the comfort of dry and hopefully a little bit warmer in the garage. So I've got these stored for the time being. I'm going to concentrate on the gearbox and find out what I need to do, and we'll go and have a look at that now and see what that looks like. Right, so here is the gearbox, and again this thing does weigh a lot, not as much as the TransferBox, but again splitting it from the TransferBox, it's just so unwieldy, and it's held on. These things were really tight, so I had to really give it a good smack in the end. I ended up putting a nut on the end of these studs and just giving it a bit of a more forceful tap, just split it. Got there in the end, no damage done. Bit of dissimilar metal corrosion going on there, needs a clean up. This thing, again the splines on that, I'd say they're pretty good. I'm happy with the splines on there. I'm going to strip this down, do a different video series on that I think. First off, I'm going to, it looks in quite good nick, and that's the weird thing, so I'm wondering whether my clutch problems are because of the oil getting onto the clutch plate, or whether it is a gearbox. I still think it's a gearbox because first and second are rubbish, third, fourth, fifth are great, so I'm still leaning towards this. But generally, even when I'm operating this, it's all pretty nice, but it does make a weird noise. It's like obviously the end stopped, so I'm thinking of when I crack this off, seeing what's inside, and I'm going to start maybe break it down slowly if I can stop or see something definitive, so I don't have to do a full refurb on it. But then again, I've gone to this effort of getting it out, so it depends. I know the first problem is going to be this collar. It is a pig to get off, really on tight. So if that comes off easy, I may keep going forward and doing it. So if I come across a stopper, then that'll probably will stop me going any further forward. But generally, spline's good on there. The spline is good on this one as well, I would say. Certainly not worn that bad, I wouldn't think. This is the bell housing end. And again, the actual oil seal there is pretty good, it's got to be said. And there's a bit of movement there. There's a little bit, not much. That's probably normal anyway. So I don't know what I'm going to do. One of the big mistakes I made was leaving the TransferBox oil in and also the gearbox oil in. I knew you had to take it out, but I was thinking I'd be able to get the unit out in one and do a little bit of a routine check first of all before I decided to strip it down. But the different angles you have to bust with this thing to manipulate it and to split it, And I ended up with gearbox and TransferBox oil going everywhere. Just every time you tipped it up, it was pouring out. So in the end, I did drain it, and again that was hard because you're on the ground and it weighs so much, and it is an awkward shape. Once you've got them split, it's not so bad, but with TransferBox on, it's tipping forward, and obviously you're trying to protect your splines and shafts. So yeah, all I can say is that was tricky, and I wish I'd taken the oils out. So that's one thing I'd have done differently. I am worried about getting this thing back in. It's so heavy. I don't know whether to put it back in as a 1 unit, or I'm thinking more as a 2. I'm going to have a read up on that. Put this on with a bell housing first of all, and then put the TransferBox on. I don't know. It is just all cumbersome, heavy, hard to manipulate. But you know what? It's got to be done. And that's pretty much the end of my series of gearbox removal. It was tough, but I just keep plodding. Every morning I come out and get it going, do a bit, set myself a challenge to get so far, and that's pretty much what I've done. I haven't come across many stoppers, just some time consuming things that have slowed me down a little bit. At the end of the day, I've got done what I wanted to do. And same thing for this. I'm going to strip this down when the weather's bad tomorrow and the next few days. At least I'm in the garage, I can strip this down a little bit more and see what it entails to do a proper service on it. Fancy doing the proper service, but we'll have to wait and see whether I get my courage up or not to do it. But so far I'd say so good. Tough challenge, yeah, but going to plan, I would say.